Okay, do we have anybody new that wasn't in the first class? Okay, so I guess I better introduce myself and Danny. So, my name is Ben Huser. I work at New Dawn. Been with New Dawn just under 2 years. I'm a member of the A-Team. That's a project team at New Dawn. Danny Douglas, he's also a member of the A-Team. We're both project managers. We both have a little portfolio of our own projects that we work on day to day. The class today is called Basic JustWare Overview 2. So we had a Overview 1 class that ended about a half hour ago. This is a continuation of the topics that we discussed in the first class, maybe go a little bit more in depth. Like Danny mentioned, we should have some more time to get into some questions and go through anything you guys need. We do apologize, it's very hot in here. If you need to stand and go out and get some water, we understand, no worries. Any questions before we get started? Everybody's in the right place where you want to be for the next little bit? Okay. You guys having a good conference so far? I know you only had one session of classes, but speakers were good today, right? The information this morning was good, right? Except for that Riley guy. New Dawn has really young, good leadership, and really, those guys are my friends as well. And that's not how it is in a lot of companies or corporations. You're not friends with your bosses. If they're all young guys, even President John Peake, young guy, he's with it, and so it's a good time to be with New Dawn and be customers and work for New Dawn, good company. So, okay, so now that I earned a bonus for that, I'm going to delve right into what we want to call start pages. Okay, so what we didn't mention in the first class is JustWare is a smart client. Right? We can give a URL to an end user. They can type the URL in their internet browser. It will land on a page. They can launch the smart client, which will open up a login screen. The login screen is tied to your Active Directory account. So whenever I log into my computer, that's what I'm logging into JustWare. I don't have to have a separate username, separate password. It's all one username and password. Okay? So my password in Active Directory changes. Password in JustWare will change. I just have to mimic whatever my credentials are for Windows, for Active Directory. Okay, so that's nice about JustWare. I can deploy that to multiple users quickly by just distributing the URL in an email and say, hey, run through the install. It's very easy to do. It's not, you don't have to go through anything crazy to install it. It's just click on it, install it, put your login credentials in. We'll cycle through and log into JustWare for you. Okay, as we mentioned in the last class, we have what's called a start page, or the My JustWare start page. This is the default page that the user will see out of the box. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this, this My JustWare start screen. Remember at the top here we talked about sessions. I can have multiple sessions open at the same time. They're going to line up just like internet browser tabs. If I go to the internet and I search for multiple addresses and I can open up multiple tabs. Same thing here. I'm in the My JustWare tab. Right below that, I see the name of the person who is logged in. Okay, so this is showing me that Cameron Karen, and that code that we'll talk about here. So NDDD is the agency code that this person belongs to. Okay, I can customize that and come up with whatever code I want. That's just the code we gave the agency. So the name of the user, the agency that user belongs to, and today's date. These three fields are automatically populating based on the login credentials. So I'm not going to have to go in and choose my name. I'm not going to have to choose my agency. Those things are there for me already. Okay. The other nice thing about that is I can go to, I have a drop-down menu, and anytime I see this little symbol here, that means I have a drop-down menu. Now I can go see the start page of somebody else that belongs to my agency as well. So that's kind of a nice feature to be able to go into Andrew Douglas's My Start page, maybe look at his calendar, see the cases that he or she is working on. Okay, so I can cycle through different people in my agency as well. Okay, so I've got name, agency, date.
Is that available to everybody?
It is, or it doesn't have to be. Yeah. Out of the box, yes. Right here, we have a couple of different tabs. Normally out of the box, you don't see that docket report tab. This is actually a custom screen that we built for one of my projects. So I'm going to use their screen. They kept the My Calendar portion, which is what we're looking at now. And you'll notice that it's a lot like your Outlook calendar, right? I can change day view, month view, year view. I can hit the forward or back buttons here to cycle through the different portions of my month or my year. And then right below that, I've got all of my different days and times. So just like Outlook would have, I can scroll down and see different things. Okay, in this example, on this start page, looks like I have an arrangement here. I have an event. Now this calendar, it's important to note, is only for the person who's logged in. So it's not going to show all court events for all people. It's only going to show events where my name is tied to that event. And we'll take a look at that here in a minute. Okay? Yes, sir?
On the calendar screen, have you linked that to Outlook?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. Yes, we have. Okay? We have the ability to do a couple things with Outlook. One is a push to Outlook or a bidirectional. Normally on my projects, I recommend going from JustWare to Outlook, because if you enter a birthday or something in Outlook, we don't want to pull that into JustWare. And I would bet that we have some smart people that could go ahead and configure some of that maybe, but I always just say, you know what, let's keep business in JustWare, push to your Outlook, and then we'll just do the one direction.
So do we have documentation on how to do that?
There's documentation in our manual, and actually when you go through, have you been implemented yet?
Not yet. Well,
When you're in that process, your project manager and your BI resource will help you get that going. It's very easy to do. It's just going through the Exchange server. Yep. So in the background, we have what's called the maintenance console. In the maintenance console, there's a tab in there that you can enter Exchange server credentials. And that's where that's all that's doing. So the IT guys, they don't have to do anything. It's just we need those credentials. We put those in there, and then we can start pushing the information out.
I don't know if they put that lemonade. It's tumbling around here.
Yeah, there might be.
A little dizzy, right? Here, the lemonade.
Yes. I'm sorry, what? On this particular screen, no. But we're going to get to your question in about 5 minutes. So yes. So the question was, I'm guessing, can we see all events on one screen for all people, right?
Yes, for about 5 minutes.
Yeah, so we can do that. Right now, this out-of-the-box My Calendar screen is just set to show events that my name is tied to. Now, there could be multiple names tied to an event, so that would reflect on everybody else's calendar too. But I'm not going to see your events, and you're not going to see my events on your personal calendar. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. At the very bottom, we have a My Active Cases by Status section. This is basically a report. Well, this is a report. This is going to go out and look at every single case that has an active master type code. And if you're coming to admin class, you'll understand what a master type code is. So if I have open statuses on my cases, if I have pending statuses on my cases, in the background, we're going to create those two codes in our code table, and we're going to assign the active master type code to them. And by doing that, when I log in and my name is tied to that open, active, pending case, whatever my status is, down here at the bottom, I will see a list of those cases here. It generates in a collapsed form, so there'll be a plus sign next to my open cases, my pending cases. I can click on that open plus sign, and I can see all those cases that my name is tied to. And if you remember from last class, if it's blue and hyperlinked, can I click on that case and go in it? I can, right? So that's what's nice about this report. I come in, I need to work on some cases. I click on open, I see the case I want, I click on it, I go right into it. Okay? Any questions about the My Active Cases by Status?
Is that the one that's a custom report?
Nope, this is just straight out of the box. This is what you get. Yep, this is what you get right out of the box. Yes?
Can we go back to the calendar for just a second?
Sure.
You can see every other user's calendar.
You can.
Does that mean that you can actually make alterations to that calendar when you're looking at it?
So if I understand you correctly, can I see this arraignment here. By the way, let's cover this while we're here, and I'll go right to where you're talking. If I hover over that event, it's going to tell me the bare bones of that event, what's going on with it, who's involved, what time, all that good stuff there. That can be customized a little bit. Okay, we can work with you and say, okay, what do you want to show up when you hover over it? Okay, that's one thing. Two, if I double click on that event, it's going to take me into the events table to that event and give me the more description of it. Okay, now here's where this is keying off of. So you'll remember in a case, you have an event, and then below that you have an event involved people snapping. Okay, and it's reflecting the same thing here, it's just kind of in a little bit different view. So at the top we have the event, at the bottom we have who's involved on that event. Okay, so in this case we've got Cameron Karen. I'm logged in as Cameron Karen, that's why it's showing on my calendar. Okay? If I wanted to add another person to that calendar, I could do that. I could come here and I could click on my drop-down menu, and if I have multiple people involved in the case, I can use the drop-down here, or it's actually searchable. So if I come in here and do a search for Douglas, I should get, let me do this. Okay, I use my asterisk, right, when I'm searching. I want a broad list, okay? I don't want a narrow search, I want to do a broad list here. Okay, well I can quickly see that I've got all of these different possible matches here. I've got Douglas here, Douglas there. So let's go ahead and do an Andrew. Was it spelled like your normal name was? There we go. Okay, so now we're looking at Douglas spelled out. I know that, how do I know right now who the agency involved people are? How do I know that? Remember what we just talked about? The agency code, right? Good. Does everybody see that right here? When you're looking at a name record in your search results, if you see a code at the end, you know that you've entered them into a code table in the background. Most likely the application person code table. Okay, that's like the main table where you put all your users in, you tie logins to them and licenses and all that kind of stuff. And when you come down in class, we'll discuss more about that. Okay, but that agency code tells me that this name record is involved, or is an agency person. Okay, so if I click on Andrew, okay, I put Andrew's name onto that record now. Now when I save this, does anybody remember my shortcut key? Control S, very good. Control S, I save it, it takes me back to my JustWare screen. So the question coming is, when I go to the name record of the other person, okay, and I open up, now I'm not looking at Karen's record anymore. I'm looking at Andrew Douglas's active cases. Can I go in and, first of all, click on that and see it? Yes. Can I go in here and click on it and make changes to it? Yes, I can.
Like the start date, you can change the start date.
I can change the start date. And the reason I can do that, I guess my example should have been, if I'm not an event involved person, can I do it? I guess she's good. All right, so that's what's driving the calendar. If my name is attached to the event, it's going to show on the My JustWare calendar. Is everybody good with that? Okay. Also, when I'm looking at the My JustWare calendar,
So if you have an arraignment on the calendar.
Yep.
And you go into your events and change, continue an arraignment.
Yeah.
Change it everywhere.
what you can do is so there's two privileges that control event lookup, it's called. You can go in there and modify privileges based on if you want them to be able to update, delete, stuff like that. You can control privileges that way. Straight out of the box, we can do it.
Can you customize the calendar if I'm a court clerk and I have some probationary conditions or something set up in the case that I have to review on a regular basis? Can you set the calendar up to tickle me or
Yep.
remind me of
Good question.
So it's not necessarily a judge or calendar based or event based, it's a condition based.
Okay, so here's what we can do with reminders. So I'm just opening up that event again. Now at the top, remember I've got my details on the case, the date and time that it's going to happen. And then at the bottom, I've got my event involved people. Towards the end here, I can do a couple of different things. Just like you can in Outlook, I can set some reminder times up. And not only that, but I can say, I want this person to receive an email or a pop-up or both. Okay, so I can create an event, I can create a task, I can create correspondence, I can do all that stuff.
But if it's not specific to the event, so it's after a case has been disposed of, and I have to check and see if the defendant's completed their 48 hours community service. will this remind me on my calendar to do that?
So what we would probably do is create a task for that. Say, the task is check on this. And then I put myself as the task involved person and I set my reminder. I want to be reminded, when this happens, I want the following things to happen.
But now, is that a reminder in JustWare? I think he's asking about the Outlook.
Okay, so if I send it to email, then I'm going to get an email reminder. Now, if I'm using Outlook, if I'm using pop-up, I have to be in JustWare to see the pop-up. I have to have JustWare open. Okay, I can't log out of JustWare and close out and expect to see a pop-up reminder in JustWare. Okay, so it's got to be open.
And you don't have to be on that specific case to have your.
Nope, you can be working on anything else, names, cases, whatever you're doing, you're going to get that little reminder. That reminder is just like Outlook, where I can snooze it, I can change the status on it, I can do all sorts of things with that pop-up reminder.
So you both email and pop-up, or you both have both applications open?
Yep, so email's going to be, email won't pop up on your screen, but if you're in Outlook, you're going to get that notification there's new email in your box, you know, just like you would if you're working in Outlook.
If you push it to your calendar of events to your Outlook, you
Yep.
get a reminder in Outlook.
A pop-up reminder?
In
No,
Outlook. No.
it is just JustWare specific. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you make a reoccurring event?
You can actually.
How?
Well, it depends on what you're trying to do. What are you trying to do?
So let's say you have a meeting every first Monday of every month. How do you
Or-
make that reoccurring?
Or
Staff meeting.
okay, yep. So we can do a couple things. Some of the things that I've done on projects is maybe create a name record called staff meeting. And then I can tie events to that staff meeting name record. And I can set up some business rule even to say, I want it to occur this date, every time, or every 2 weeks, or whatever. Have you guys implemented yet?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
years ago.
Okay.
We might be a little bit ahead of
Ahead,
this.
yeah.
Yeah, this might be
We're here for the folder thing.
the filing cabinet?
Yeah.
Okay, we're getting there now. Okay, so name,
It is a folder.
create a name, create events in the name record. That's not case specific, that's what I've been doing for everything that doesn't involve a case. I create a name record and I tie all that stuff to a name record. Okay.
I have a question from what he was saying, like on the reminders. Does, like how he was saying conditions, like reminding you of when something's due? Or
Yep.
does that have to be in the event first for it to remind you?
Nope, you can create a task. So let's say you have an arraignment in 2 weeks. You create the event, arraignment due in 2 weeks. Maybe you create a business rule that says, I know that when I have that arraignment, I have to do the following 3 things. And they have due dates on them. So I can go ahead and create a business rule, or I can add the task manually and say, I need to do these 3 things. Put those in there, task involved my name, set my reminders, and then I'm going to get those reminders that, hey, oh, I've got to file this motion by this date.
So like what about like if, let's say the diversion officer wants a reminder when somebody has something due?
Okay?
What?
Task involvement.
Task
Yeah,
involved.
task involvement. So you can have multiple people on events as event involved people. Same thing with tasks, same thing with correspondence. So anybody you tie to a task or an event, it's going to show up in their task or on their
Where's
calendar.
the task at?
Let's go right to task right now. Any questions on this? Good questions? Okay. Did you have one, Hans?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Okay, so are we good with my calendar?
Yes.
Real quickly, let me just talk about this custom report screen that we did. We did a docket report for an agency. They wanted to know, and actually what we did was we created some automation. They have court every single Wednesday. It's always at 1 o'clock. And it always starts with this case type. This was their example. So we went in and we created a docket report that reflected what that schedule needs to be. So now, when the court clerk logs in, and it's Tuesday, she's going to see the Wednesday docket report show up on her screen. If she logs in on Thursday, she's going to see the following Wednesday's court docket on her screen. Okay, so she sees times of the event, who's involved, what it's for, what the status is. This is actually an attorney, what the defense attorney's name, and the case number. Okay, this is an example of a custom report. This is what she wants to see every time she logs in. She wants to see her calendar, the cases she's involved with, and what's my court calendar for next week, for the following weeks. Okay, so that's an example of a custom screen. All right, on the left-hand side, we've talked a lot about views and sessions. In the views section, right underneath the action section, we have a couple of different options here. I'm going to go to this My Dashboard. This My Dashboard is actually a custom screen. Dang it, I didn't want to give away that screen. Okay, so this is another custom screen that we did for an agency. They wanted the calendar here, and actually this is squished, so calendar should be there. There we go. So it's our default screen, right? It's the same thing that we saw just moments ago. My calendar, my active cases by status. The next tab over at the top is called My Tasks. And the reason they wanted this is they are a task-heavy agency, meaning a piece of mail comes into the office, the gal up front, she reads the letter, she knows right what to do with it, she enters the case in, she puts all the information in, scans the letter in, puts it in, she creates a task or workflow of who needs to review this piece of mail or who has this case. Okay, so we're using My Tasks here. And what's really nice about My Tasks is I can task involve people, and then in this case, we did a really cool thing where there was a piece of mail that she read and she wanted the attorney to review. So she entered the case, she added a task called Review Mail, status was pending, then she task involved the attorney at the bottom, and then she went to File, and she actually attaches the letter that he needs to review to this task. So it doesn't have to go through the filing cabinet, doesn't even have to open the case and try to go find this letter. Creates a task, task involves people, puts it in the file, I've got everything I need right there as the attorney. Okay? So that's what a task is. So a task is, Danny mentioned earlier, it's an event. It's basically an event that's going to happen. It's got a start date and time, I can set reminders, pop-ups, all that kind of stuff for it. Okay? And then these last two tabs here, this filing cabinet, this would be every document that's in that case. So this is a bad example, but for this one, they wanted just the piece of mail that needed to be reviewed, and then in the filing cabinet was all the documents on the case that they needed to review. Okay? This is a custom screen. I'll show you the difference between this one and My Tasks. So this is the custom screen, and then this is what our standard, out-of-the-box, My Tasks start page looks like. Okay, it's basically the same thing except for the bottom section there. So I've got my tasks listed there, I've got the task involved people here, and then if I scroll to the bottom, I've got every snap-in that's relating to that case. So you remember your case, we haven't looked at case summary yet, but we've got case information, so what's the case type and the status, who the case involved people are, the defendants, the victims, the witnesses, any case notes, any events, any correspondence, all that stuff is right here at my fingertips. Okay, so if I'm looking at my tasks, I want to quickly look and see information, I can click on those tabs. Okay, the example I gave you from before, that agency didn't want all these snap-ins. They just wanted task involved people, they wanted the file, and they wanted the filing cabinet. Okay? So, important to know here is that you can customize your start pages. Then the other thing that's nice about this is if I go up to my tools, and I go to settings, and I go to default view settings, I can actually set what my default start page is when I log in. And that is located under this other section. Okay, so right now my default start page view is my dashboard. If I open that up, it shows all of the start pages that I have privileges for, and I can set whatever my start page is right here in my default view settings.
That's per user, correct? Not
Per user, yep, good question. Per user, it's only affecting me. So if I always want to see my tasks, Danny always wants to see the dashboard, we can have those two set separately, and they're not going to affect each other.
How did you go to that again?
Yep, let's go back. So that's actually located in your tools at the very top, under settings, and the third option down is called default view settings. Okay, you can actually customize names and cases too. We're not going to go into that right now, but that is located under other. So if I click on other, we're not going to worry about dockets right now, but your default start pages. What page do you want to show up when you log into JustWare? That's where you control that. Any questions?
So if you're, let's say you're in a case and you want to assign a task to a clerk,
how do you assign the task without it being assigned to all the involved people?
Okay, good question. So the question is, if I'm in a case and I want to assign a task to somebody, okay, so let's go into tasks. Tasks are located in events, and then tasks, and right here we've got this example of a case prep. So when I'm adding people to the bottom, if I click the add button, I have a couple of options. Remember, it's searchable here, so if it's a person that's not involved in the case, I can do a search and bring them in too. Or if they are case-involved parties, I hit my drop-down and I can choose a person's name who is a case-involved party on the agencies and involved parties snapshot.
If you involve them in the task, will it show up on the calendar then?
It won't show on the calendar, but it'll show as my tasks, right? Because the tasks, or my calendar is events only. It's only going to show events.
So it won't tie them to the events?
It won't tie them to the events. So to do that, you would just come back here to the event, snap in whatever event it is you're looking for, find your event-involved people, add them here, click the drop-down, tie their name to it, then it will show on their calendar. Okay, so my tasks and my calendar are two separate things. And my tasks is driven by tasks, my calendar is driven by events. Any questions? Go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry.
So,
Okay.
So if I,
Hold on, one more time. She's got one more thing.
so if I assign the task to somebody else, how do I check it?
Okay, so if you want to see who's assigned to the task, is that what you want?
No, if
If they did it or not? Okay, so there's a couple different ways we can do that. Remember, you can go to, well, first of all, we can do a report. A lot of administrators will say, I want a report that generates every Friday, and I want to know who has outstanding tasks. That is exactly what this agency did. Because we were assigning so many tasks and workflowing things, so, they're wondering where are things stuck at? Who's hoarding things, And so they would run a report and say, this person has this many open tasks. Okay. The other nice thing about the start page and the My Tasks section here is when I have a task at the top and I change the status to completed, it's going to drop off of My Tasks. It's gone, but it's still a task on the case and it shows as completed. Okay. So these guys use this task this is like their bread and butter. They come in, what do I need to do today? Okay, I got to do this. I go in, I open the filing cabinet, I review the mail, I mark it complete, it drops off my tasks list, I move to my next task. Or I generate a new task and I send a workflow to somebody else. Hey, I reviewed this, now it's your turn to send this letter out. Okay.
Again, back to the exchange question, there's tasks in Outlook as well. Is there any way of making those up as well?
I don't believe so. Have you ever dealt with pushing tasks from JustWare to Outlook? I don't believe I've ever seen that. Doesn't mean that we can't do it, but I'm not 100% sure.
So when you send anything to the Outlook calendar, it's technically an appointment.
It's an event. Yeah, it's an event. It's
Well,
a
in Outlook, it shows up as an appointment.
Yeah,
You
so-
can make tasks, you can make appointments, the
Yes.
nomenclature is different. So I'm just
So
wondering-
it's going to show on your calendar, whatever the event type is, so arraignment, it's going to show on the date and time as arraignment, and have all that information in there that you have specified under.
So the person who gets the letter in the first place,
Yes,
the person who's hanging on to that letter,
Yep.
maybe scanning it in,
yep,
who's got the file?
the file,
The hard
the
copy
hard
file?
copy. So these guys,
How are we tracking that?
they're trying to go paperless. They're trying to get rid of the file, okay? Because they scan it in the filing cabinet, it's in the case, right? So with the hard copy, right now, they're creating a file and they're keeping it. The gal up front has it, they just have a little place up front, they're putting files. But they're trying to get rid of that, they're trying to go away from it. That's their preference. Let's go here and then we'll come back.
On the My JustWare, how he was saying how it pops your event onto your calendar.
Yep.
We have some new people in our office, and now we're not really sure how other people got added to that list for it to pop onto their calendar. How do we, is that where you were saying they exchange server credentials? Is that what you were saying?
So if they're an event-involved person, it'll show up on their calendar.
Well,
If
some of
they're not
ours are
event-involved
not,
people, I'm not
because-
sure why that would.
Well, they're not listed. like our home screen is the My JustWare.
Okay?
The drop-down box, it has everybody in the office in there, so our new people aren't listed in there. Is that something our IT team has to do?
So, can they log into JustWare?
Well, some of the people.
That's why. They need to log into JustWare. They need to have a login credential in order to see it.
Then the IT people.
Yeah, that's where it's at.
Our IT people.
Yeah. They have to be in the application person table, be active, right? And have a login. That equals a license. Okay, let's go here. Sorry.
Okay, so I'm on an older version.
Yep.
And I believe there's some place in there where you can check out a file.
Check out
hard copy file.
Oh.
In the olden days, which we still are in, check out hard copy files to a certain place or person, so you know where that file is at all times.
Okay.
Can you do that in this 510?
Yeah, I mean, if I understand you correctly, you're talking about documenting somewhere in the system that so-and-so has this file,
Right.
and when we got it back and all that good stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's still in the same spot,
Same-
that
same way you done it.
that location snap in, one of the events sub snap in.
Oh, okay.
So you just have to set up the name attribute of can own file. And so you can manually put that attribute on them, you know, that so-and-so has this case file. Or if you're using a scanner, you know, the barcode, you would just be able to scan that file to that person. So it's in 510, it's working the same as in whatever version of 5 you're.
Okay, well, we haven't used it, that's.
Oh, yeah, that would probably be a discussion that we to take offline. Talk about more, take a little while. But so yeah, grab one of us or any of us, either afterwards or around.
Okay.
We can help you through it. So.
Did you have questions?
I had a question. Under tasks, is there a way to give a completion date or a priority?
Yep, there's a lot of date fields on there. There is a priority field. It might be hidden on this view. Actually, let's go into a case. And if we go into tasks, there's a priority field right there on your tasks. So you can say this is priority 1, this is priority 2, etc. You have start dates here. I use this as a due date a lot. I'll change this to due date. Yeah. So when is this due? I change this to say due date, and then that'll give. If I set up pop-up reminders and I want to know a day in advance, so it'll look at that start date or that due date, and it'll give them the pop-up reminders a day from this time, a day in advance of that time.
So how do you hide fields?
So there's a couple different ways to hide fields. You can do it in the background in JWXML is what we call it, or Dwindle. You can hide fields that way. Or if you give the user, the end user, the ability to have this customized snap-in tool, they can come in here and they can make fields visible or not visible. They can change the name of fields. Okay, so I can change the name. Now remember, this customized snap-in tool is only user-specific, right? It only affects my profile. If I change a name, Danny's not going to see it. Okay? The only way that this can be seen, you can use this tool and have it be seen by all, is if you're an administrator and you have the ability to do what's called like a force update. So you can set up your whole screen using customized snap-in tool, and then you can push that to all of your users, like a global push. Okay, so if you don't want to mess around in the background doing the XML stuff, if you're an admin, come in here, set up your screen, push everything out to the end user. A lot of agencies are touch and go with this tool. They're like, no, we don't want the end users to have this. They can rename a field, and then they forget what it's named, and then miss some data, and they think it should be here, and they're not putting stuff in, and it should go in. So, some agencies and some projects, I think we probably split down the middle. We don't want the users to have it.
Can you give them partial permission just to move the fields rather than
So they
change
have
the
that.
name? Well, no, rather than, can you limit their permission to change the names of the fields, but allow them to move the field? Or is it just all or nothing?
Well, so with the customized snap-in tool, you're not, well, you're not actually controlling their privileges by moving fields here. I can do this.
Anybody can do this.
Yeah, anybody can do it. But again, it's only user specific, only my profile. I don't need this tool here to be able to do that.
But without permission, you can't delete it or change the name of it.
Right.
You can just move it around.
That's correct, yeah,
You'll have
that's correct,
everything
yeah.
that you need.
Yeah.
You'll have the difference.
If I select pop-up for the task involved people,
Okay,
where is it popping up?
it just, if you're in JustWare,
Yeah.
you have to have JustWare open.
Yeah. Okay.
It should just pop right up on your screen, just like an Outlook.
Just like an
email.
Outlook one.
It'll say, yeah, this,
It's gonna pop up on the involved parties on that.
well, it's just gonna, if I'm working in a name, if I'm in the filing cabinet in some case, it doesn't matter where I'm at, it's just gonna display on my screen right here.
Oh, okay.
That pop-up only.
Or your meeting and.
Yes, yes, so my name is here, and I set the pop-up, it's only gonna show up for me, it's not gonna show up for everybody in your agency. Very good point. Okay?
Okay, so going back to another question I asked, so if I have that community service as part of in the set judgment, sentence, and financials area, can I create a task from that, or do I have to go back into this separate task and create it again there?
So there are different ways we can create business rules. All a business rule has to have is a trigger, and then it can have many results. Okay, so if you're talking about a specific scenario, let's talk when we're done, and we can work through that and see what the trigger would need to be, and then what we want to have happen. Okay, I think we're good on start pages. Let's move on to the filing cabinet. Okay.
A business rule.
For those of you who have seen JustWare in the past, you will know that the filing cabinet was recently overhauled and redone and redid and redone. We redid it. Much better. The old filing cabinet had a lot of limitations to it. You couldn't do a lot of things with it. This new filing cabinet is going to be a lot like your Windows Explorer, you know, where you can create folders and you can create subfolders and you can organize things. And JDA still functions the same way. You know, we generate a document from here. We can scan documents in. We can drop them in the filing cabinet. So let's talk briefly about functionality of the new. Okay. So just like in the old filing cabinet, if I get an email with a document that I want to put into the filing cabinet of the case, I can do two things. I could click on that email and hold on that email and drag it over and drop it in the filing cabinet, or I could grab the document that's attached to that email, drag it over, drop it off in my filing cabinet. Okay, that's the same. That's the way it was in the old filing cabinet. That's the same way it is now. Okay, when we get a file into the filing cabinet, okay, I have a new a pane over here. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. So what's nice is I have a preview pane. So if I click on the document, and I'm not clicked on it, it's acting up on me. Well, if this document had uploaded, we would be able to click on it and see a preview of it over here, which is handy, right? I want to see, I'm not sure what it is exactly, so I click on the document, oh, here's my preview of it. Okay, I click down through my documents, I see the preview of it. Okay, the next tab over in the middle there is called Properties. This is where I can name the document. I can specify what document type it is. I can put a status on it. I can put notes. So if you remember, all those fields that are in the old filing cabinet, that's all this is here. It just looks a little prettier. Okay, it has dates at the bottom there. I can put in a date. I can put priorities on them. I've got my dates here.
What would you use parent event for?
If you had one event that it was, or if you had an event that this document was tied to, you can tie that document to the event. Just like with tasks, remember how we talked about tasks? The agency that I worked with is in Oklahoma. They would generate the task. They would go into create that event and put that document in there, and that's how we get into the file in the filing cabinet.
Well, so like one example, so like if you generated a warrant, and the warrant was as a result of the defendant failing to appear for his arraignment.
Oh.
So then you could go in and say, this warrant is because of this arraignment that was scheduled.
Okay, and then at the last tab over here is my involvements. If I want to do document involved people, In the old filing cabinet, this is where I do that here. I click on the add person, and it's just the same as putting a document or an event involved person, a task involved person, document involved person. Okay, it's all done the same way here, so I can attach people that way.
Well, why would you want to attach something?
Let's say you had a witness statement, and it came from your witness on the case. You have 3 witnesses on the case, and your document title is just witness statement. Instead of calling it Jamie's witness statement, okay, I can attach a name to it, and that way I can differentiate between whose document is who. But you can do a lot of that now, which is nice, in your naming conventions here. So I could come in and I could really put a nice name on that and make it specific. Okay. Your document types, this is coming from your document type code table in system administration, right? So all of your JDA documents, all of your documents that you can scan in and specify what type they are, they're located here. You can still code partition this, so if you have done code partitioning with your document types, you can still do that. Let's talk about right-clicking on a document. This has some neat features to it. I can print it, I can open it, I can email it. When I click on email, it's going to open up my Outlook, put this as a file attachment, and I just type the address of the person I want to send it to, and it's gone. Okay? Please.
I just found out you can email more than one document at the same time. Yes, you can.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Okay? Not only that, but I can move documents to a case record, or I can copy documents to a case record, which you couldn't do before, right? Okay, it was hard to do that. It was kind of clumsy. So if I want to move a document, that means I'm taking it out of this filing cabinet and I'm putting it in that name record of that case record. Okay? Or I can copy to, which is actually going to leave this copy here, but make a copy of it and move it over to whatever name or case record that I want. And yes, I heard the file system. Okay, I can save it out to a file system. I can put it on my desktop. Okay, do whatever I want with it. The nice thing about this case record is when I click on that, it's because I'm not uploading. Great. So when I do a copy to in a case record, a little window pops up, and I can start typing in my case number. And what you're going to see is a list is going to show up, and as I'm typing my digits in, it's going to start shortening my list down until it finds my case number. I click on it, I hit OK, sends the document over that filing cabinet. Okay?
So does it have to be a JustWare case number, or can it be
it can be a case ID, it can be a court number, it can be a law number.
Okay.
You know, as you type, you're going to see your case start to filter to the top.
It's kind of like if you've ever used the related cases snap-in, you know, how you could do a search off of the JustWare case ID or court number or prosecutor number.
Right.
So it'd be the same way.
Okay.
Yep. Very good. Okay, I can cut, copy, delete, rename all from here, just your standard menu items. Okay, very good. Let's talk about new folders. Nope, I don't want to. Well, I do want to actually. Okay, so I can create folders, and I can rename folders, and I can create subfolders. So if I want to call this, let's do this one as test. Okay, I put my name of the folder in there. Okay, I got it. I put it in there. Hold down. And because I'm not uploaded, I can't drag that document in. Just like Windows Explorer, I grab that document, drop it over, and it drops off in my folder there. Okay. So I can create folders, I can name them, I can put documents in there, dragging and dropping. We also are doing now business rules that will drop specific folders in if you have the same folders on every case. So on every case I have this folder, this folder, this folder, and this folder. I can create a business rule that when I drop that case type in there, it's automatically going to drop those four folders in the case folder. Okay? Much improved, right? Filing cabinet is so much better than it was. Okay. All right. Generating documents. This is your new JDA function. Okay. So instead of clicking the Add button in the old filing cabinet and filtering through your list, when you do Generate Doc, this is only going to show you the list of documents in your document type code table that have the number 4 code, which is JDA code, right? Okay, so instead of seeing all your document types here anymore, you're just seeing your JDA documents. Okay, so I generate a document, I've got my JDA documents here. I click on one. We don't have anything stored in here. I don't think. Did we pull anything over? Right there. So I click on that. I generate my document just the same way. Okay, so that's a nice feature. It's only going to pull up my JDA documents, not all my documents. Okay. We talked about new folder. We can add files. This is the same as if you're dragging and dropping. This will take me out to my Windows Explorer. Let me go to my desktop, go to my documents, wherever that document is stored. Grab it, move it over. Okay, double click on it, make sure it's highlighted there, and hit open. Whatever works best for you. Okay, so we can add files that way. We do have a more option here. When I'm highlighted on a document, I can print, email, move to, copy to, delete, customize. Whatever I'm highlighted on, that's what's going to reflect, or that's what it's going to view to that record is whatever I'm highlighted on here. We have different views that we can see these documents in. Right now I'm in the normal icon view. Right to the left of that, I've got my detailed view, right? I also have a large icon view. Okay? So if I can't see from 16 inches away, then I make it a little bit bigger. So. Okay, and then we have the ability to search the filing cabinet, right? This has always been a huge want from a lot of agencies is, can we search the filing cabinet? Yes, we can now. We can search the filing cabinet.
And that's searching the filing cabinet in that specific instance.
Correct. On this specific case, the documents that are in here, it's going to do a search on whatever you type in there. So case numbers, things like that. It's going to show.
So you can just put anything.
Anything that's in the case, it's in a document. It's going to find it.
Doesn't have to be attached to the cases involved.
No, as long as it's in the filing cabinet or a document.
But you have to be in the filing cabinet to search for.
That's correct. Yeah. So, well,
But if you went to the main search,
if you run the quick search, it should search with the new filing cabinet. Is it searching? Does it imply these search tactics? Yeah, there you go. I would assume. Well, I don't have any documents. I will try it, but I will get back to you.
Ask us tomorrow.
Ask us tomorrow. Good question. Yeah, so this is brand new. We've been rolling it out to a lot of customers. It's a lot of it can be done if you're on a new enough JustWare version where you can go into the maintenance console and you can right-click on that dribble and say upgrade with new filing cabinet, and it does it for you. Okay. So if you're on JustWare currently and you have a newer version, and you want to try the new filing cabinet, I would suggest going to the maintenance console.
Is it the aspect ratio that's causing the S from search file cabinet?
It's probably because of the the projector.
Resolution. And all that.
Resolution.
there's that little arrow right there.
Yeah, I can push over. And this too, this is a good point here. If I've got multiple tabs open, okay, and I want to see all those other tabs, I can click on these, go back and forth.
If you're not on a projector, most of
the time it fits.
you'll see all those snap-ins on your one screen.
I wasn't worried about it, it's the filing cabinet.
Yeah, I'm
And it's just that. Okay, last thing, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just wondering about JustWare.
Bit is,
You're doing fine, you just keep going.
well, case summary. Okay, I don't think we have this on our list, so I wanted to get this in here really quickly. The case summary is traditionally the last snap-in on every single case record, and it is a report. And it's a report that is a default, out of the box, this is what you get. Okay? Case summary contains all of your important case information, case type, the status, the court numbers, the law numbers. Then we move down to involvements, who's involved on it, what their relationship to the case is, so defendants, conditions, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, this report could get rather lengthy if we've got a 2-year case with all the events and tasks and filing cabinet documents and judgments and dispositions and all that good stuff. So financial stuff is tracked on here too, the obligations owned, non-collectible stuff that's owned.
This updates every time you save.
I'm sorry?
This updates every time you make a change and save.
Yep, so every time this report, every time you make a change in the snap-ins, there you have to come and refresh the report. To do that, you can do it a couple different ways. You can F5 it, or you've got your little refresh key there. Okay, we can also print this report. Okay, we can also export it and send it out to whatever file type you want. Okay, PDF, if we don't want anybody monkey with it, PDF, Word, whatever it is. If we need to redact information, a lot of agencies will push it out to Word and make it their own little thing, and then it's ready to go out. Question?
Part about exporting.
Sorry, what's that? Oh, good question. So we've got our collapsible and expanded views here. So if I wanted to collapse events, I just click on the plus sign, shrinks my events up. So now we'll say a plus sign next to events. There's my plus sign. If I click that again, it opens up my events. So collapsible, expandable, and reports.
About exporting to CSV.
Yeah, so if I want to export this case summary, that's the only thing I'm exporting. If I go up to the top, I've got that little icon that looks like the save button, and I can come out and I can export it to whatever file type is listed here. Not what I want, but whatever's listed here. Right? Pretty neat.
love that icon.
All right, guys, I'm had enough. So. Good question. Danny, you're up.
I have a quick question. Can you also do that in other sections, including financial?
Can you do what?
Or to Excel or consolidated or...
Can you mean, does that have the ability to export the stuff in another snap-in out to Word?
Yes. So like for financial judgment, financial...
You get a report that would do that, but there's not an export like on this report to do that. Okay? Anybody need to warm up a little bit, do some jumping jacks or anything? All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about setting up our custom user settings, and you guys kind of talked a little bit about some of that. There's some questions that were being asked. We're going to go a little more into detail on some of the things that you're able to do with that, okay? So if I come over here to the Tools section, and then come here to my Settings, and then Default View Settings. So, like I was saying, Ben kind of touched on this a little bit, where he's saying you can come in here, this other tab, and say, you know, my default start page, I want it to be that My Task view, or I want it to be the My Calendar view, or, you know, and like he said, this is specific to my profile. And also, like he said, as an admin, you can come in, and so if you change this, you're able to push those out as your user settings and make that everybody inside the agency settings as well. Okay, does that make sense on how that works? Yes.
So user has a setting, and the admin then comes along later and changes the default setting. Does it reset the user setting?
Yeah, if you push out something to the users, your settings would override what the user had set up.
Until they change it.
Until they change it again. Okay? So let's talk a little bit about this. So as you see here on this case, so right here I've clicked on the case. So I want to set up some of my default view settings for when I want to look at a case, okay? So right here I can come in here and set up what my default case type is going to be. So if 50% of, say I've got 5 different case types, you know, we've got criminal, we've got traffic, we've got felony, we've got juvenile cases, and parking, okay? So I know that 50% of my cases that come through are going to be traffic tickets, okay? So I can go in here and I can set up a default case type. I don't think that's going to be one of my options here, but let's pretend. I can come in here and set up that my default case type is a traffic ticket. So 50% of the time, I've saved myself a step when I click on new case, okay? But you're not limited, so you can go in and change that on the other 50% of the cases that you need to select another option there, okay? So that's what that is controlling right there, okay? If you want JustWare to default, that when you say, I want to do a new case, do you want JustWare to default what case type it's going to populate in that case type field, okay?
Per user or global?
This is per user, okay? So you might have some people, you know, they're working all the traffic tickets, other people are working the parking tickets, so, you know, this is great for the individual users to be able to set that up, you know. Some people, you know, all they're going to do is parking tickets 100% of the time. So they set that up, they've saved themselves a step every time they go to create a new case, okay? All right. Do not show prompt when creating a new case. And I think, if I try and create a new case, sorry, oh well, I guess I'm duplicating my screen so it'll work. So I'm going to close this for 1 sec. If I come to new case now, it brings up this little pop-up box for me, okay? That is being controlled by, you know, if I had checked that, do not show the pop-up box, the prompt, then that pop-up box would not show up. If I had set traffic as my default case type, right now, that would have traffic in there, okay? So I could switch it to another case type from here, you know, so I didn't set a default case type, that's why that's not populated right now. So I can select my case type from right here. When I click OK, it's going to bring me up into my case view, my case session, and I can start entering in the rest of the information, okay? So let me pull that user setting back up. So if I had set this up to say traffic is my default case type, but I had clicked on this to say, don't show me that pop-up box. When I click on new case, I would come up, oh, didn't like that. So I would come up to right here with traffic as my default case type, and same thing, I could go, if I needed to change that, I would have the ability to select a different case type right there, okay? It's just trying to help you, if it can, but it's not minimizing or restricting you from making changes there, okay? Yes?
So if you're going to go in and to create a new case, but there's already that case that's already in there, will it tell you that the case already exists?
No.
Like in our office, we have like our pre-trial and we have our post. So we always, our pre-trial department always sees our people first, and sometimes we're not on the same page with them. And so if they're already dealing with someone that's already in the system, if they come to see me for probation after they've been sentenced, and I don't know that, and I'm going to put in a new case, they're going to say, oh no, they're already in the
Only if you were trying to put in their pre-trial number in there, then if you entered in that number, it would show up. It would show up, you know, you can set up that, hey, if I have duplicate numbers, change. Oh, sorry. Let me go back to my already existing case here. Ah! Leave me alone. Okay, so if I come into, I gotta sit down here for a second, sorry. That's one of the bad things about being tall. You short people have all the breaks. Okay, so if I had a duplicate number in one of these fields right here, so if I said, you know, if I had other and pre-trial, and then you went in and you added a duplicate number in there, you could make this so this field would become yellow.
Okay.
So you would know, oh, I've already got a case in there, so I need to do a search on this name and see what other cases he's involved in. Okay? All right, good question. So, let's go back here to default, to our settings, okay? All right. Default view when creating a case. So, one of the agencies that I worked with, they had a really detailed screen that they had us create for them. So when they were doing their parking or traffic tickets, we create their case and their name sessions that we created for them basically follow the layout of their parking or traffic ticket. So we moved everything around, so as the data entry person, they're just reading it off the ticket and entering in a field tab, entering in a field tab, okay? So they had a data entry view that we created for them and a name entry view that we created for them, okay? And it was stripped down, so a lot of the snap-ins and fields that are in our tab details view were gone. All this was for the data entry people, what fields and snap-ins did they absolutely have to have in order to create a name record or a case record for that case inside of JustWare, right? So they weren't moving around a lot, they were just fast, you know, making it faster for them. So the way this is beneficial for something like that, so they would set up, hey, my default view when I'm creating a case is that case entry view that we created for them. And then we had, you know, a more detailed case view. So when they were going in to view an existing case to enter in more information, like judgments, sentences, events, and stuff like that, they would come into this more detailed view when they're viewing a case that already exists inside of JustWare. Same with name records. So over here on this name tab, they had, name entry view. So they set this up. When I go to create a new name, I want JustWare to pop up that name entry view. That's the stripped down, bare minimum stuff that I need to enter in off of my ticket for creating a name record. And then when I click on a hyperlink somewhere off a report, or I've done a search and I'm going to view that name record that already exists, I want it to be that bigger. It's got the relationship snap in, the events, financials, filing cabinet. Okay, does that make sense? Yes. Okay. So another way that this works. So following that same kind of premise, so right here, really simple example. If we're handling civil case types and criminal case types, right? Civil cases can have a lot of different terminology than criminal cases have, right? So instead of charges, it's a cause. And, there's some other terminology that might be different, or just the stuff that you're tracking inside of JustWare. You're tracking a lot less stuff with your civil cases and using a lot fewer snap-ins or fields than you are in your criminal cases. So maybe we create a custom view for you for your civil cases, and then we have a different view for you for your criminal cases. So down here, you can set that up. When I'm creating or viewing an existing civil case, so you click on that hyperlink off of the report to pull up that case, it knows based off the case type that you have set to give you that. So here's your case type. You've selected. When I want to open a civil case type, open it up in my civil case view. Okay? If I click on a case that is a criminal case type, then open it up in my criminal case view. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? Okay, so if you needed to, for all these different case types, what are there, like 17 case types? You could have 17 different views if you felt that there was enough difference in what is being tracked inside of JustWare, and you wanted to build 17 different views. You could have this set up. When I click on a case, or I'm creating a case that I have selected this case type, this is the view you should open that up in. And remember, this is specific to users, okay? Or if an admin wants to push, if an admin comes in and sets all this up and pushes that out to the agency, okay? All right. So let's move on to another section here in the tools, okay? So you can come in here and set up some color preferences. If you don't like the way that JustWare handles things out of the box, you're more of a fuchsia kind of guy. You don't like yellow. You like to go a little more manly and throw some fuchsia on the screen for yourself. So with this active snap-in order, so if I come in and I change that, so basically what that's going to do, if it works.
F5.
All right, well, that's odd. So that's what it should do. Here in this session that your active snapping that you're in, it should change the color of that bar around it so you can see what your active snapping is. If you don't like that gray because it's not very obvious, you can make it a little more obvious for yourself. Okay. On this duplicate number, how I talked about when you're inside that case, if you had a duplicate pre-trial number or a duplicate court number. On a name record, if you go in and you enter in a social security number, if you're entering in a name record and you put in a social security number and you save it, that's going to pop up inside of there in that field to let you know, hey, you've got a duplicate social security number. So if that happens, that should probably be an alarm that something's not happened right? Something's not. Either I fat-fingered something, or this guy's giving me bogus information, or maybe he's using an alias, but it's alerting you that something needs some more clarification, a little more searching into, okay? So if you wanted to change the color, so instead of it being yellow, if you wanted it to be green, then you switch that, and so then inside that box, it's going to make that green instead of yellow, okay? So for juvenile, let me pull up my name search here and find one of those Mickey Mouses that I did that is under 18 years of age. Ah, see, it worked. So this Mickey Mouse right here that's 8 years old, so if I go into his name record, it said that it was going to flag juveniles with the yellow banner, so it's this right here. So if I want that to be a different color, I just need to change that setting right there, okay? And then,
These are all default for the user.
yes,
So the user can say whether they want to get pop-ups or not. So even if you click them as a legal assistant, you click everybody to get pop-ups. But say that person doesn't want them. I thought I saw something where it said disable pop-ups.
No.
yeah,
Was
Yeah.
it there?
yeah, in the tools.
And so one person can do that for themselves.
Okay, so sealed here, so if you've gone in and set up the ability to seal cases, seal rows inside of a snap-in, same thing, what you want to see with that. If you don't like yellow, you want to pick a different color, that's what this is controlling. Okay? Any questions on that?
Administrator Adam, for choices on that, like, for example, something we can.
You don't like fuchsia?
No, the colors are fine, but like if a person has a warrant, we wanted their name to appear.
I think if you want to do that, you'd have to do that with a report, like a banner put across the top of the view. Okay? So sorry if anybody didn't hear, so she's saying like, you know how we've got sealed cases, juvenile and stuff like that. She's saying like, so if the case was in a status of warrant, if you could do something like that, if you could add that to that list that appears there. And so if you needed to do that, you'd have to create a report to put a little banner across the top of the session up here in order to do that, okay? All right, so then on here, so some of the other things you can do here, font size. So you can come in here and if you don't like it being bigger and this size 10 font, you can make it 8. And I'm not sure, 12 used to be an option, and I'm thinking that since I've got my resolution set so low on my computer that it won't even give me an option to select 12. So if you like the big, humongous icons on the filing cabinet, then you might like 12 fonts as well, okay? All right, any other questions on that?
It's awesome. And that's only available in 5 to 10, is that right?
No, this has been available for a while.
Okay, okay.
Okay, yes.
Just a question, so on this, for like the information, do you make it where there's mandatory fields that have to be filled out? Or is it just based on whichever user is involved?
Amen.
You can do some validation business rules where you say, hey, this, like you could make it simple enough to say, hey, you just have to do this field, this field, this field. Or it could be like, hey, if you're in a certain case type, then you have to fill in these certain case attributes. Or you have to put this event on there, or these tasks or something.
And it'll acknowledge that?
So down here, how Ben, so if I went out onto this case, how Ben was talking about your message that you get here. So if you had a validation rule set up to do something like that, hey, you need to add this case attribute on a civil case type. So it would when if they tried to save it and they hadn't added that attribute on there, they would get an error down there, a yellow error message, and you can actually type in part of the business rule, you can type in what you want the error message to say. So it could be very detailed to say, hey, Dodo, you need to add this case attribute, on a civil case type. Okay?
Because Pat was asking me if we videotape this.
All right. So let's talk a little bit more about that customized snap-in tool, okay? So inside the customized snap-in tool, so we talked about how you can come in here and make some fields so they're not visible, right? Or you can change the name of them, right? So you can also, if you wanted to change the name of the snap-in, you're able to do that. So this charges, if we want to change that to be cause, then we could do that, okay? The snap-in tooltip. What this does, so this allows you, so remember how when I hovered over the snap-in, it showed me what the shortcut key was, right? So if I type in a snap-in tooltip here, so if we typed in so if you had a field, maybe the snap-in isn't the best place to do a tool, but maybe down inside the snap-in in a certain field, you know, you have the same ability down here, so, you know, the occurred date. So if you're doing something a little weird with the occurred date, you have the ability to type in a tooltip down there, and if the end user hovers over that field, that tooltip that you type in there will show up for them. So I'm actually gonna move that from there and come down here and do that. Okay, so when I do that, so now if I come over that and I hover over that field, that tooltip that I just typed in there will come up for the end user. Okay? This is where everybody should go, wow, ooh, ah. This is, well, so the thought behind this is if an end user had the ability to do the customized snap-in tool stuff, they could make themselves one, or as an admin, if you're thinking this is stuff that's going to be beneficial, you go and you do this and you push your user settings out to all the end users and they will get that. Okay? Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
So is there an ability to see who the last user was that was in that case? Like, so if I was to pull up the case, am I able to say who the last officer was that was in there?
There's a setting in another table that's more of a, you know, that you can go in, you can make it so I need to see logging of what everybody's doing, accessing files. The problem with doing that is it starts filling up your database really fast. If you're logging every time a user, like you got 50 users in your office and every time they're opening a case, it's logging that to the database. It's going to start taking up a lot of space really fast. So normally we will tell people you only want to set something like that up if you suspect somebody's doing something that they shouldn't be doing.
Or not.
Or
not.
well, so that's another one. So there is a report on here that you can show. It's one of our system reports where you can go user logging, or you know, it's just basically it's looking to see. It's not looking to see what cases they have been accessing. It's just showing you this is the last time they logged into JustWare and how long they were on JustWare. So if you just got an end user saying, I'm not getting it, I'm not getting it. Well, yeah, you haven't logged in 3 months. What do you expect? Okay? So yeah, so along that, you know, I think there's like 4 different settings. You can make it so you can see when people are logging in, when they're accessing cases. Maybe one that some people do that, you know, isn't going to happen as often. So maybe when they're deleting rows inside of cases, so you can turn that on to, and then you'd be able to see in the report, you know, people that. But even that one, for the most part, using security profiles, you're going to be able to minimize the people that are able to delete even a row of data inside of a snap-in. So based off a security profile, you'll be able to say, if you're part of the security profile, you're going to have the ability to delete a row of data and save that to the database. If you're not a part of the security profile, if you're just, you can enter data in, but you can't delete it once it's saved.
So it's not really an auditing feature. For the last person to modify it.
Nope, you do have that. So if we come over here, so this chart right here on inside every snap-in, you've got who was the last person that, so it shows you who created it, right? Who was the initial person that created it, and then the last person that modified it and when it happened. So if Ben went in there now, it would still show me, even though my name's not Cameron, it would show Cameron Karen as the guy that created it, but Ben was the person that modified it last.
So as soon as they log in, make a change and hit save, the last modified is going to show their name.
Yep.
With the data.
Yep. And that happens automatically. You're not having to set up anything in another table for that to happen. Okay? So any questions on that? Customized snap-in, removing stuff, setting up tooltips, Any questions on that stuff?
You mentioned several times that administrators can push configurations, but users can then change the configuration within their view.
Some things, yes.
Some things.
Everything
not
got irritated because
everything you can push and change in the back end system in some way so that it's not capable of being changed.
No, I don't care what
The only thing that you can have the ability to stop the end user from doing is moving those fields around. That's the only thing that JustWare allows
So they can
everybody.
adjust the columns.
If they can adjust the order of the columns, every user's gonna have it. I don't have, there's no way inside of JustWare admin to turn that on.
Right. You know.
Okay? All right. Well, so it's almost 4:30 and I'm sure everyone's about ready to melt, so, if you guys, I think, unless, if you guys want, you can come up and ask us about some of this other stuff if you've got a real burning question about those. So, this is basic admin or JustWare overview 2. You fill out some reviews again, we appreciate it. Thanks for coming. We hope you guys have a great rest of your conference.